Hi, it's Lisa. In a recent video that I did on building psychological safety with your employees, I mentioned the idea or the difference between finding cause and laying blame. And a few of you were wondering about, a little bit more about that and what it was and how to differentiate that. So I thought I'd go into it in a little more detail today. When you're managing employees and something goes wrong, you need to understand what happened that that caused the issue to go wrong. Now, sometimes this is as simple as an obvious behavior that one of your direct reports did that was counterproductive. And sometimes it's more of an investigation of an error or something that's happened. If you approach it as finding fault or blame, you're setting the wrong tone. So it can lead to defensiveness with your employees. It can just be ineffective because if you don't really understand what's gone wrong, it's really hard to improve the situation. The other thing, though, is that it's disrespectful. If you think about the difference between a parent talking to a child, let's say, there's a sort of superiority potentially in that of I know better than you and that sort of thing. Whereas if you're giving feedback or speaking to a peer, you're going to take a more collaborative approach. And really, I think as a leader, you want to treat your employees as grown-ups and as capable and whole. And so approaching it as in kind of what happened is way better than shame on you for doing this. So you really want to check your framing as you're coming into the conversation. Do you understand, how you're perceiving it? So if you're thinking something like, oh, I can't believe this person did this again, or something like that, you're very likely going to come at it from a blame perspective. So the goal here is to have the person take ownership of their behavior and also that they participate in figuring out why it happened so that it can be improved. We're looking for the reason that something happened, and that's actually a what, not a who. Blaming someone implies that they themselves are the reason for the wrongdoing or the counterproductive behavior. Whereas shaming someone implies that they should feel really bad about the wrongdoing or the counterproductive behavior. So you can see how either of those things really doesn't help to prevent defensiveness and that sort of thing. When we look to find cause, we're actually not saying that the person themselves didn't do the behavior. It doesn't mean we're not trying to find out who did a thing. We still want to speak to that person's specific behavior that we saw, if it's that clear. But we don't want to stop there. What caused the counterproductive behavior? Why did it happen? What allowed it to happen? If it is truly an individual issue, as in the person was fully aware that they were choosing not to do the thing that they were supposed to do, and they were able to do that, that's one thing. It might also be connected to some other aspect of the system that they're working in. So the team dynamic, maybe there's something that you missed in communicating the expectation to them, that sort of thing. So you really want to have it be a conversation to understand that. Now, it is still okay, and in fact, it's a part of your job that you communicate expectations and that the expectation is that the person improve their behavior or that they take ownership of making that change if it truly was something they need to own. None of this is to say that you're not holding them accountable, because absolutely this is the way to hold them accountable, as opposed to the shaming and blaming, which allows them to sort of just walk away feeling like they were treated unfairly. Instead, what you want to do is to have them collaborate with you to understand the behavior and what circumstances led to that behavior, and to help problem solve how to prevent it in future. It's important that you expect them to change what is within their control, and then to move forward with, okay, so what else can we do to prevent somebody else from running into the same issue? So often, these are things that anybody could have done. And so you want to sort of look at, how do we set our employees up for success? And are we asking the right things of them? Do they have what they need in order to be successful? The ideal is that you use that experience to have the person collaborate with you on how to rig the system so that it helps others to be successful and to not encounter that same issue. Here's, really quickly kind of what that looks like. You're going to bring the issue. Here's what that can look like in practice. So for example, if someone misses a deadline on a report they were to get to you, first of all, you bring it to their attention. This is important. And then you tell them the impact that their late submission had on you or could have had. That helps them understand why it's important to respect that deadline. Then ask them what happened. This is where, instead of making assumptions about the fact that they didn't care about the deadline or they didn't bother getting it to you or whatever, you can get to what actually caused them to miss the deadline. So this could be anything from, I completely forgot. If it's an I completely forgot, then you can talk to them about, how do they keep track of deadlines? And you can give them some coaching on how to do that. If they said, I, wound up feeling really sick and thought I was going to get to it later, okay, that's great. Then you can coach them on letting you know sooner, as soon as they know that it's at risk, giving you a heads up so that you can make other arrangements or know not to expect it right away. These kinds of things, you're opening that up. If they say to you, I had no idea that was a deadline, then you look at, how did I communicate that deadline to them? What was missing there? And sometimes that can be that you weren't as clear as you thought you were, that sort of thing. You want to know that. You want to look at those things. Now, so you've brought it to their attention. You've told them the impact of that late submission. You've asked them what happened. And so you're now engaging in a conversation with them about that. And whenever your performance management is an engaging conversation with that person where you hold them accountable and yet you treat them like a responsible grown-up who can actually make it happen, you're going to find that you get much more traction with it. As they're telling you what happened, watch for excuses and deflections. Often those are moments to sort of coach them on the process of talking about performance. You can help them to understand that rather than blaming and shaming, that you're actually talking about cause in order to make improvements and in order to support that employee in making improvements. You're really asking them to collaborate with you to understand why it happened and how it can be prevented in future. So I hope you find that helpful. If you have any questions or if there's anything I can do, of course, please reach out. Please give me a comment on any questions or how you plan to use this tool in future. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.